Joining me now is Gregg Smith, the CEO of Grounded Lithium. Nice to see you in person.
Good to see you again, Mark, and it's nice to be joining you here at VRIC.
Absolutely. We talked a few weeks ago. We did that remotely. And for those who didn't see that interview, could you refresh our memories in terms of what you're doing with a company? You're taking basically decades of oil and gas experience and applying it to becoming a world-class player in lithium production.
Yes. Thanks for the question. So what we're doing is we're using what we learned from oil and gas. And what we know from that experience is you want to have quality assets. You want to have the product you're looking for and lots of it for deliverability. And then you want to be positioning yourselves where you're going to be ultra competitive because you've got your lowest cost structure from both an operational and a capital cost perspective. And that's what we feel like we've done. We went out, we identified quality assets, and we were looking for strong deliverabilities, good thick rock, as well as the lithium concentrations to be able to deliver those outcomes. And then we looked at, okay, well, what's going to control our costs? Well, depth obviously controls our costs because the deeper we are, the more it costs to drill. We think of oil and gas and H2S within the system as contaminants. And those are contaminants that must be removed. So we purposely targeted an area where we don't have those. Because if you have them, they are destructive to your process for extracting lithium and they must be removed. So this helps control our cost side because that's extra facilities we don't have to build. So we're very happy with where we got to in terms of identifying the right opportunity that should be able to be best in class.
So one catalyst in the first part of this year will be updating the PEA. So can you update us on that process?
Yeah, the PEA is a bit of an ultimate goal. Yep. And we will complete that in the first half of this year. But there's a number of events that happen along the way as we get there. Right. So we need to identify our technology. So we're well underway on that. We need to lay out what's our development plan. And we will be revealing that here in the very near future. Once we have the development plan, then that allows the engineers to also cost out. What will it cost us to build that to produce our lithium? And the final thing is the resource report. So we continue to look to upgrade that. And with the results of our well and the plan on how we're going to develop it, we should be able to move some of the reserves from inferred to indicated. And we'll be working with our resource auditor to try to accomplish that.
You're also working with consultancy Hatch, and they are looking at direct lithium extraction technologies and various companies that offer that. You say you're dealing with, or they're dealing with 6 companies. You're narrowing that list down. Any update on that process?
Yeah, well, from the beginning we said we want to be a resource company and not a technology company. But we also recognized we had to have the capabilities in-house to evaluate all the different technologies. So when we first went on with Hatch, the spectrum was wide open of what we looked at. We narrowed that down to 6, and then we've put those 6 through the ringer in terms of evaluating them and what they can do with our brine. We expect shortly we will be announcing the top 2. Once we've announced the top 2, then we can move on to what we call the pilot phase, the lab pilot. So each of the top candidates will receive large volumes of our brine. That brine has been produced out of our well and is currently sitting in secure storage. They will receive large volumes of our brine so that they can do lab pilots where they repeat the process again and again so that we can see how their process works over time.
All right, very good. And then the ultimate goal is to be commercially producing in 26. Seems like a long way away, but we know that'll come up quickly. We also know that the North American market or lithium market is hungry for product. And so do you think you're really in a nice sweet spot right now?
Yeah, well, a lot of the projections for lithium need starts to go out of balance in about 2026. And we're not targeting that. You've kind of touched on a soft spot for me, Mark.
Okay.
Because from the oil and gas sector, I'm used to investing and seeing a return on investment within months. And this is a very different business. So I'd have to describe our perspective as disciplined impatience.
Okay.
So we want to move this forward, and we think because of all the features that we talked about, without the need to remove the contaminants of oil, gas, and H2S, and our shallow depth, that we can think about this in terms of a smaller footprint, a smaller initial facility that'll produce about 10,000 metric tons of lithium carbonate a year. And we can move that forward very quickly, we think, under the circumstances. And that becomes sort of the building block, if you will, because we have the resource and the land where we can build multiple versions of that same first facility. And once we built the first one, it's generating cash flow. That helps fund all of our subsequent facilities and growth. And as we will grow out and be increasing our production, increasing our cash flow, and generating that value for our investors.
And you said, Greg, lastly here, that it's just a matter of time before more and more investors cotton on to the story, so to speak, at Grounded Lithium. So do you think, in terms of catalysts, you've got the PEA, you've got other catalysts, and combined, then that could move the needle on the stock?
Yeah, well, there's always catalysts we can't talk about, but there's also the PEA that it's an ultimate goal for us this before the end of summer.
Yeah.
And we know what we have to do to get there, and we're well in progress. So you can expect to see an announcement, and this is based off our first well. It told us this well has solid deliverability, and when we stop producing, the pressure response, it goes right back up to virgin pressure. So it's good, solid, sustainable production that we can get out of these wells. So that then leads us to how many wells do we need? What's the interwell distance between them? That will be our development plan, and that will be news that comes out. There will also be the news of we're now shipping brine to our top 2 candidates in the technology market. And also, obviously from that, there will be the eventual, who is our technology company based on efficiencies and cost? So there will be a non-stop door of news that's like, we're really all about executing a program and getting to an ultimate goal of commerciality. But along the way, it generates news, and we will update our shareholders as we go.
Okay, and we'll look forward to that news flow. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay,
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for the update. Gregg Smith, CEO of Grounded Lithium.